I want to talk a little bit before we meditate. You know, I always put an invitation out there, something to think about, something to, you know, we can use it for our contemplation, or we can just kind of look for it when we meditate. Mahaprabodha is the word for inspiration. And sometimes we could use all the inspiration we can get. And the reason I say that is because inspiration is, I like to call it energetic joy. You know, it's, it can be very joyful for us. And it's, for the most part, it can be our happiness to be inspired by activities, to be inspired by, you know, things that we would like to be, things that we would like to do. We can be inspired by, you know, activities. Sometimes we can think of something that other people have done and be inspired by it. The life of the Buddha can be inspiring. There's lots of, you know, stories regarding the Buddha and how he worked with different people and what the words that he used and what he said to his disciples and things like that that can be very, very inspiring. There's lots of people find their inspiration through the Bible, through, you know, so through various books. We can be inspired through movies. We can be inspired just by words, you know, singular words or by phrases, and sometimes those are used as mantras, or more oftentimes these power phrases are used for not a mantra spiritually, but when we use a repetition of words. Somebody help me out.
Chanting?
No, not chanting, just affirmation. Thank you. Yeah, use it for an affirmation. Like, usually it isn't a singular word, but more of a phrase or something. I know myself, I find inspiration by the word limitless. Limitless is a word that I really enjoy. I see, when I think of the word limitless, I think in terms of, you know, the no boundaries, you know, no walls, you know, that I have created for myself, and just going beyond these things. So inspiration can be very key in life. I think the people that have really accomplished wonderful, great things in life did that through inspiration, by being inspired. And the Mahaprabodha is the Sanskrit word. I don't know if you want to memorize that or not, but the reason I looked that word up is because I want to talk a little bit about spiritual inspiration and what that can mean for us, and how we come about and go about finding inspiration spiritually. And of course, I think everybody here knows what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be here, you know, to find that spiritual inspiration. What I've talked about so far is the spirituality and the inspiration that we can gain from the outside, you know, from things out there. We can think of other people and get inspired spiritually. You know, I mentioned the Buddha. We can think of books. We can think of things, basically things that other people have done, and be inspired by that. But if we can remember to look at the things that we've done and use that for our inspiration, it is something that is much more permanent and sustaining. It doesn't fade so much. It doesn't fade as fast. It's much more reliable. If we can remember a time in our life, maybe when we started meditating when we first started seeking meditation as a way to fulfill our spiritual yearning in a way, or maybe when we were, looking for a teacher or found a certain teacher or something and just how things kind of came along for us, and we kind of matured spiritually at that time. When we go back and recall that and think of it, we can be very, very inspired by that. Just by thinking of how we came about enjoying meditation, enjoying our spirituality, enhancing our spirituality. It's usually thinking about the actions and getting that same kind of feeling within the body. And I'm talking about like a warmth. It's maybe the same kind of warmth that we feel when we're doing like a loving kindness practice, or when we have unconditioned love for something. We feel we have this warmth inside our kind of in the area of our heart, the heart chakra area. And I think for me, when I talk about and I feel this spiritual inspiration coming up, I feel it in the same place, right there. And if we can remember those times that we felt that in the past and generate that again by remembering something that we ourselves did, not somebody else or anything like that, it, like I said, is very much more sustaining and more reliable to think of that. And so we're not relying on anybody else or anything else, our own feeling within, and recreating that own feeling that we ourselves have experienced. I hope you know what I'm referring to when I speak of this. But it can be very, very important, like I say, especially at times like this when we're, let's say we're at home, alone. We don't have a lot of people coming over anymore, and we're not going out as much as we used to. It can be a very, very valuable time for us spiritually to have those moments alone, and it can be a very, very spiritual time for us, and some a time that we can really cherish and use to our benefit. But we have to be inspired to do it. And so if we can conjure that up, not in a fakey way, but in a genuine way, as meditators, it can really help our practice and really help us find the genuine joy in life. And so that's the invitation, for the meditation that we'll do tonight. Now I'll guide us through a little bit of that. When we first start meditating, I'll talk a little bit more about being inspired and what it means to be inspired, and then we will have, a good 20 minutes of silence or more. Please close your eyes. Bring your attention to the breath. Use that as a tool to bring you into this present moment. Ask yourself to relinquish any troubles of the past or any fears of the future. When we feel inspired, we can feel in that inspiration in the present moment. We don't have to look for it in the future. And we don't have to think about something that we've necessarily did in the past to be inspired now. Sometimes thinking of the past can be useful. Something that we did spiritually, perhaps, that we're very, very proud of in the past, and then use that feeling and bring it into the present moment. So inspiration, whether it's spiritual inspiration or inspiration related to other areas of life, is characterized by an inner drive, something that we often call enthusiasm. So the inspiration that we are looking at tonight, spiritual inspiration, can be found in many different ways, and I mentioned through books and by being inspired by others, even through movies, and thinking of things, inspiring stories of the past. But this kind of inspiration that we're looking at can be sustained in a couple of different ways. One of them, again, is by admiring the actions of others, being inspired by what others have done. And the other way is recalling our own actions, being inspired by what you have accomplished spiritually in your life. And this spiritual inspiration can be used in many different ways. One of them is clarity of mind, focus, and concentration. When we sit in meditation, we realize that we're resting in the present moment. And if there's a sound, it's just simply a sound. If there's a thought, it's just simply a thought. There doesn't have to be any ownership or grasping on or clinging to any of these things. They can just be noticed and let them flow through, like any aspect of life. And that alone can be very inspiring, that we don't have to hang on to anything. And when we're in that present moment, it's that concentration ability that we have, just resting in that spaciousness of that presence with an open mind, can be very, very inspiring. And it can create that feeling of spirituality, that feeling of awareness and mindfulness that is really a product of a meditation practice. And then we can take that into our regular everyday lives and find peace of mind through everyday living. When we're spiritually inspired, we're very moral. We look for ways to help others. We have more compassion, care, and love for ourselves and for other people. We're less judgmental. We don't care to compare this for that, us for others. And there's much less dialogue within the mind. It seems to slow down considerably. It's not as necessary as it was, because we don't have to explain things to ourselves. Just imagine the thoughts slowing down to a trickle. How peaceful and inspiring that can be. And perhaps the greatest inspiration that we can find is just simply knowing that everything is exactly the way that it's supposed to be in this moment. And truly realizing that In other words, not having to change anything or to be in control of anything, and letting things be as they are in the moment. And when we can accomplish this, we can certainly feel that inspiration, that spiritual inspiration inside. It seems the great teachers, the great speakers, the great writers, they all knew this. And they can seem to bring up that inspiration, from within a person. So it seems like the inspiration is happening out there, out in front of us. But even when we notice and experience something out there and we become inspired, that inspiration comes from within us. So we know it's there. And when we find it and treat it correctly, there's no limit to this inspiration. Imagine waking every morning to be inspired with life itself. Being inspired throughout the entire day. Just to be inspired and be thankful for living. The opportunity to help others. An opportunity to enjoy life, on our terms. And then to look forward to going to sleep at night, being inspired and just even asking for inspiration in our dreams. So this inspiration that we can find is really our true happiness. It's our source of happiness. Whenever we feel down or feel neglected or untrusting, whenever we feel impatient, fearful, angry, we can look towards inspiration, particularly spiritual inspiration. And look to those moments where we had it and we found it and created it within ourselves. And we can do that again and again and again. So at this moment, think of a time that you're truly inspired. Maybe you're inspired now by having the opportunity to sit in meditation with your friends here, wherever you are. Think of those moments in life that you found inspiration, where you could actually feel it within the body. And see if you can generate that feeling and be familiar with it. And then don't let the mind stray from that. Just stay with it. Sit with that feeling of inspiration, to be inspired in this moment. Find that feeling in the body and cherish it and hang on to it. See if you can create it and let it build. See if there's a yearning for a little bit of a smile to be created as we do this work. our palms together in front of our hearts, if you like. May each one of us and all beings be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. May we all meet with spiritual and worldly success. And may we have the patience and the courage and the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or any difficulties that we might face in life. Thank you, everyone. So meditation itself can be very inspiring. I hope it is, or was, for everyone here and everyone that meditated with us. We can, when we think of inspiration, we can think of specific times. It can be very the stories of inspiration can be very inspiring themselves. And I'm going to ask everyone here if they have a story of inspiration, their own personal story of spiritual inspiration. And the winner gets, no, never mind. In the meantime, I'll tell you a story about myself, and I was very inspired by a series of things that happened. And while I'm telling you this, think of your, see if you can come up with something, and then we can kind of share if you like. But I was on retreat on a very small island in Hawaii, one of the smaller islands called Molokai. And it's an island that most people don't go to. It's very, very, very tiny. And it's very quiet. There's only one road, that goes around, and one through the middle. That's about it. And I was on retreat there. It was a concentration retreat, and from a group from Canada. And I just ran into it on the web, and I thought, well, this would be a good retreat to go to. First of all, it's in January. And although it's nice here, I thought, well, it's a perfect time to experience Hawaii. I'll go to Hawaii in January and go do a nice long retreat, meditation retreat. So I flew there, and when I got there early, and there was just ample opportunities for hiking, and I love to hike. And I asked the people about hiking, and they said, yeah, you just go out into the forests and go hiking. It used to be a pineapple plantation, and there was trails all over the place. And you can't really get lost because you can see the water, out in the distance that way and out in the distance that way, and you can kind of, you could always kind of tell where you were, no matter how far you walked. So I walked and walked and walked. Must have been miles and miles. And before long, I turned around, and there was a little man walking down the hill, and he was wearing an orange robe. And I thought, well, there can't be too many monks on Molokai, and so I waited there. I knew who it was, and fireworks, right? And so I waited for this little man who turned out to be a huge man. It was Bhante Ji. He came down the hill, and I told him who I was, and he was very, very happy to meet me. I bowed down to him and told him how much I admired him in his books, and I told him that at that time I was working with Matthew Flickstein, one of his very, very close friends, and somebody that he's known for 30 years. And of course, Bhante Gudarantana wrote I guess his most famous book is Mindfulness in Plain English, and he wrote many, many other books, and he's still writing, even though he's, I think he's almost 90 now, and he still writes every day. He's a very, very good writer and remarkable person. But when I first met him, I felt right away that this is the epitome of I mean, this man is metta. I mean, he is loving kindness himself. I could just feel that. I'm very inspired to be with him. And we hiked together probably 8 miles that day and just talked and hiked and talked. And I had an opportunity to ask questions after question after question. And we would stop and talk and hike some more. And finally, I was getting tired of hiking, and we hiked up to the retreat center where we were at, and we hiked up to the main house, and then we hiked beyond the main house, and he kept hiking, and I thought, what the heck? You know, I was tired of hiking, and he wanted to keep on going, so we hiked some more, a couple more miles after that. You know, I thought we were going to be done, and it turned out I had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with Bhante Ji. It was probably one of the most memorable retreats that I ever had, because I could spend so much time with him. It was a concentration or a jhana retreat, and he was leading the retreat. After the retreat, I spent more time on the island with Bhante Ji. And so we went whale watching and shopping and all these things that you do on these islands. All the island life. Watch sunset after sunset after sunset, and really had a wonderful time. And then after that, we became, really good friends, and I had the opportunity of working with him when he came to Mesa a couple of times, and that was very inspiring for me. Really, really deep meditations. It just felt really good to be in his presence. And when I think of being inspired, I can think of that moment, just looking behind me and seeing this little man in the orange robe, knowing exactly who it was, the only monk on the island, or in that area of Hawaii, coming down the hill, and I could just feel it, the anticipation and the inspiration, that was actually coming my way. So I could be inspired by just thinking about that. And if I want to create spiritual inspiration while I'm sitting in meditation, I can actually, bring up that memory, but I don't dwell on that. I don't dwell on that in the past, but I bring it into the present moment, that feeling in the present moment, and just sit with it. Does anybody else have a story of inspiration that they'd like to mention? Doesn't have to be a long one like I just told, or even detailed, but anything at all?
I'm not sure if it's really spiritual inspiration, although I guess all inspiration is probably spiritual in some way.
Could be, yeah.
I guess I just think of my son Jesse, who is now 28, and who was a very troubled baby into his teenage years, and even by the time he was 15, he was special education. He just was not expected to ever do anything or be able to drive or work or anything. And he's an ongoing source of inspiration to me, but I guess the one moment that I'm thinking of was when we offered him a chance to teach a class before we flip-flopped the center. So it was a couple of years ago, and he taught an art class. He's a really gifted cartoonist, and I remember just remembering this child who was not very well received by any of the schools or anybody that had to interface with them, and watching him get up in front of a group of people and teach this course on how to sort of picture yourself through art. And so that was very, very inspirational for me, and I often think of him for inspiration for what he's overcome and how wonderful he's doing in his life against all the odds, so to speak. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was art therapy
Picture
program,
yourself.
actually, called
Yeah.
Picture Yourself, yeah.
Great.
I'd like to have him come in here and do that again, actually. And now he's working in that field of therapy, working with children.
Helping kids that were a lot like him,
Yeah,
that are like a lot like what he was, I should say.
yeah. Yeah, so we can be inspired by others. We can, that feeling that we have inside, that you had inside by him doing that. If you can conjure that up, bring that up whenever possible and use it. Use that energy.
I was listening to a podcast with this guy from the Netherlands called Wim Hof, and he was talking about how he does. They were talking about all this amazing stuff he was doing, like hiking Everest in his shorts and K2 in his shorts and staying in an ice bath for 2 hours. And this guy's like in his 60s, and I'm like, he's in great shape, real inspirational, like super positive attitude. And I was thinking, that's interesting. So I spent, several hours reading about him and learning about him, and then I started doing some of the stuff he was doing.
like
it's crazy, but like ice baths,
yeah,
breathing exercises.
you have to do some of it to get a taste of it,
Yeah.
right?
I've been doing it for 2.5 months.
Yeah,
I've actually lost like 14 pounds. And
really.
yeah.
How long can you be submerged now?
I can hold my breath for 3 minutes.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's quite a feat.
And then my hiking is like I do this hiking group on Thursdays. And I'm like with like top 2 now. Before I was like down near the bottom.
Wow.
So
You mean
I've
as
actually-
far as energy and
Yeah.
strength of
endurance,
hiking.
yeah.
Endurance,
Like
yeah.
breathing, so
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Oxygenating better, I guess, is that part of that? Yeah.
I guess, I don't know.
Is it mainly from the cold baths, you think?
It's probably
Or-
both.
And then you're doing breathing exercises and like
Yeah.
building up the oxygen and then holding the breath to,
Yeah.
yeah. Because you can't just go, I'm going to hold my breath and then do it for 3 minutes. I mean, you have to work into it,
Well,
right?
you like hyperventilate yourself for like 40 breaths.
Yeah,
And then you hold your breath for 1.5 minutes. And
yeah.
same thing for another 40, then hold your breath for 2 minutes, then same thing for 40 more, and then 2.5 minutes, and then same thing again, and then 3 minutes.
So there's a program. Yeah.
I've been doing it
yeah.
every day for like about 21 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's almost, I started slow, but it feels like you're going to pass out.
Yeah, there's actually some spiritual meditation-based practices like that.
Well, I've been kind of using it as my meditation. Because
Yeah.
I figure I'm breathing. I'm concentrating on my breathing anyway.
Mhm. Present moment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it actually keeps my mind from wandering because it's kind of difficult breathing.
Yeah. Anybody else have a story they want to share? A story of inspiration? No?
I'll share a couple came to mind, but just on the way here, it was about a 15-minute drive, and just the clouds and the sun setting was just like beautiful, and I was just kind of admiring that, and I had been thinking all day. Obviously, this is my first time coming here, so I didn't know what to expect or anything, but I kind of just wanted to come with like an open heart and like know that there's things that I've been working on spiritually, and a lot of that is going back to places in my younger self where I did feel inspired, and so that's been like weighing on me a lot lately, and it's ironic or coincidence, I guess, so to say.
Right. Yeah.
To be focusing on that tonight, and in the car when I'm admiring this guy and thinking of my past self and stuff, I was overwhelmed with what he called the energetic joy, and it's something that I work on bringing back.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah, it's a real deal. Yeah,
Conjuring up that, because there's been a lot of times in my life where I felt it, and when you get that little taste, you want to keep working at it.
absolutely.
So I appreciate the opportunity to continue working on that
Yeah.
here tonight.
Yeah, and we're lucky enough here and fortunate enough in Arizona to be able to see a lot of really, really beautiful skies, a lot of beautiful sunsets and stuff, and that can be very inspiring. And it can spark off, other moments of inspiration too. Like one moment of inspiration, like a sunset, can remind us of all of these other moments that we've had. So it's really kind of a chain reaction. So inspiration can trigger more inspiration, and so on and so on. Anybody have any questions here? Anything I can help with? Okay, thank you all very much. Love you. We'll see you next Wednesday.